At this point in time, you should be at a computer out in one of the robotic work cells, or at the front of one of the work cells. And of course, you've created a Lab 2 folder on one of the work cell desktops, and you've copied over your client file that you created and pasted it into that Lab 2 folder. What I'm going to do is go ahead and double click on the client application itself, but take a look at the message that comes up. It says application SCAD Lab 2 does not exist. So the reason for that is when you originally created the client application, you did so on a computer inside the programming lab. So that programming lab computer has a network directory on board for FactoryTalk, and that network directory is connected to the name of that specific computer. So when the client application was created, it was looking for the server that was loaded onto the same computer that you created the FactoryTalk project in the first place. So what are we saying here? Well, when you create a client application, it utilizes the computer information or the directory on the computer that was used to create the FactoryTalk application in the first place. So now that we're taking our client application out to a work cell, we have to change the directory of the work cell computer to point back at the computer inside the programming lab. So ultimately what we're doing is we have to change our directory to the name of the computer that's serving the screens up to this client application and serving the data up to this client application. Alright, clear as mud, I imagine, right? So what we need to do is simply say OK here, and in order to perform this particular task, we're going to go into our Programs menu, Rockwell Software, and under Rockwell Software we're going to look at FactoryTalk Tools. Okay, and we're going to scroll down to specify FactoryTalk directory location. So you're going to notice right now it says the directory is installed on the local host. So the local host is the name of the computer you're currently sitting on. Okay, but we have to make sure that we have this application connect to a remote computer, and that remote computer, of course, is the computer inside the programming lab. So how do we change that? Well, click on the ellipses. Okay, and we're going to have to type in our username and password. So you're going to use your SCADA login information here. So we'll go ahead and do that and then hit OK. Okay, and the next window that pops up asks us, do we want the directory to be installed on this computer or a remote computer? So again, we want the remote computer. So click on the ellipses on this particular window. And what should happen is, depending on the number of computers that are powered up in the lab, what we should end up seeing is a list of them. So all the computer names should be listed here. So the computer that I originally created the FactoryTalk application on is the one listed right at the top of the tree here, of the network tree. So I'm going to highlight that and say OK, and then click on OK again. Lastly, we'll hit OK on this utility screen, and you notice it says that we need to shut down and restart the computer after we change this information. So enter in your login information or login credentials again. And when you click OK, the screen itself should close, and you will also have noticed that down in the bottom right hand corner it should have said connected to that computer name in H172. So now with that directory information updated, we'll go ahead and double click on the client application again. And what's happening now is the client application is going out over the network, connecting to the HMI server that is located on the PC inside the programming lab. It's also connecting to the data servers that are sitting on that PC inside the programming lab. So again, the client application couldn't connect to that because it didn't recognize that the computer itself was located in a remote location. We had to specify that for it. With the screen loaded, we see the 3 push buttons and the 3 lights that we created previously in our design application, and we can go ahead and test those. So if I click on the packaging area PB, of course, we get our light that we programmed earlier turning on, and we can do the same thing for the secondary control logics, and finally the OPC connection utilizing the SLIC controller on the other end. Okay, so all 3 areas are testing well.